LYTPC, Joshua Stewart, pipe up north. Happy Independence Day. Today's the 4th of July. And it's raining outside. So, for 4th of July, I wanted to try to do as much of a all-American video as I could come up with. So, for my pipe, probably one of the most all-American pipes I could come up with is a Missouri Meerschaum Country Gentleman. I've got a few K. Woodies and Dr. Graybows and a few other things that I know are American made too, but I know a few of the K. Woodies and were made in England. Though I'm pretty sure all mine are American made. And either way, the Briar probably comes from Europe. I don't have a real good way to verify one way or the other, but we know that the Country Gentleman is, well, I'm betting probably the stem isn't American made, but we're trying here. So I got my Missouri Meerschaum Country Gentleman, made in USA. And in it, we've got some Iwan Ries, Old Colonial. For my tamper, we've got an American made 16 penny nail. I couldn't verify that any of my other tampers were American made, so that's the one that I got that I know is American made. I got my Zippo that I know is American made. So, happy Independence Day. So I just thought I'd share a little bit about our trip that we went on for, it was less than a week that we were gone. Went down to Illinois. One of the main things that we wanted to do was spend a day in Springfield. See the town that made Abraham Lincoln. We visited his the home that he had in Springfield there, and museum, a couple of museums in town. And visited his tomb. Which that was the whole Springfield thing was a interesting experience. If you're at all a history buff, definitely worth it to check out. And on one of the tours, remember the tour guide said, I think it was the house tour, that during his first term of presidency, he was not very popular as president. And I think our tour guide said he had like a 29% approval rating. which I thought that was very interesting. How history looks back on a man widely regarded as one of our greatest presidents. Had such a low approval rating during his presidency. Now, granted, I'm sure that a lot of that low approval rating was from the South that didn't really like what he was trying to do at the time. But obviously that means that there was also many in the North that didn't really like what he was doing or how he was doing it. Having a hard time keeping this lit. This is my second bowl of the day and my first one earlier was a blend from the UK that I also had trouble keeping lit, but Iwan Ries Old Colonial is pretty good. It's got a little bit of Latakia, which, if you know me, you know I'm not a huge fan of Latakia in large quantities. But when there's just a little bit in, like this has, it's pretty good. In fact, it's good enough that when I finish up this pouch, I'll probably get some more. So anyway, I'll continue to tell a little bit about our vacation. We went down to Illinois. Kind of the other thing that triggered why we decided to go there this year was, I believe, early this spring. I believe it was in March. My two youngest were a sophomore and a senior in high school. They did a class trip to Chicago. Of course, with a class trip, it's a very rigid schedule. You get an hour here, 2 hours there, then they wait for an hour for the bus. You go to the next place for an hour, wait an hour for the bus. There was a couple places that they stopped at that they did not get enough time, which was the Field Museum and the Shed Aquarium. And I've always wanted to go to both of them since I was a kid, and I've never been at either one. Even though I've been to Chicago several times for conventions for work, I haven't really had a chance to do much sightseeing. Although the first time I went for work was a long time ago. Shoot, that was probably 25 years ago, the first time I went for work. I was a young man at the time, went out with several other young men, and we would stay out until 4 in the morning, hitting all the bars and stuff. More recently, I'm in bed by 10 o'clock when I'm on the trips for work. So my last few times I've been to Chicago, in the last, let's see, I've been there 2 or 3 times before this in the last 10 years. And it's like you get up at 7 in the morning, get to the convention by 8 or 9. And walk around at the trade show and stuff and maybe catch a couple of seminars during the day till about 5 o'clock. You go out for supper, go back to the hotel and crash. Do it all again the next day. Usually we're there for 2 or 3 days. So the last few times I've been there, I haven't gotten to do any sightseeing. So anyway, the kids, they wanted to spend a whole day at the Field Museum, which we did. And even spending a whole day there, we were there shortly after they opened and left shortly before they closed. I don't think we made it through half of it. Spent a lot of time in the ancient Egyptian part, and then of course the dinosaurs and just spent a bunch of time checking out their old historical animal mounts and stuff. Seeing mounts of some of these mounts are over 100 years old, which is pretty cool. So that was day 1. Day 2, Day 2 is the day that we went down to Springfield. We stayed in an Airbnb. It was a little over an hour outside of Chicago because I didn't want to stay in Chicago. I heard a car. It sounded like it was right in our yard. That didn't sound familiar. So yeah, Field Museum the first full day, Springfield the second full day. And the third day we went back into Chicago, planning on spending about a half a day at the Shed Aquarium. So we got there right away when they opened, and we didn't buy our tickets online ahead of time, and they opened at like 9. We were there right away, and they had timed openings, so they wouldn't let us in until noon. And it was kind of a busy day, and they've got the pricing that basically adjusts price based on how busy they are or how busy at the time that you want to get in. And I think they were charging us the max rate, which for the 5 of us was $262. And although the aquarium was very interesting at places, it was so crowded, and there was a lot of kids there, which, I mean, it's great. That's kind of what the aquarium was built for. When was it built? 1930 or something like that, for kids. But maybe it's just the old codger in me, but a lot of those kids were pretty rude, and their parents didn't try to teach them to not be rude. They would just go right in front of you and block your view of whatever you're looking at. Which, I mean, kids are going to be kids, but I don't know if the parents were just letting them roam free or what. But in my mind, the parents should have been there. No, these people were here first. Let them look. When they're done, you can look. And then people were going every direction, so you didn't really know if you're going the right way or the wrong way. So it would have been nice if there would have maybe, especially on busy days like that, if they'd kind of have a flow pattern that was kind of behind ropes or something, so everybody was going the same direction. So although it was very neat and interesting, everybody in the family agreed that it was overpriced for what we got out of it. The Field Museum, I mean, that was not cheap to go into either for a out-of-state family like us, but that was yeah, well over $150 for us to get in, and that we all agreed was well worth it. And it was crowded there at times too, but at least some of the more popular exhibits, they kind of had a start point and end point, so the traffic kind of flowed a little bit more smoothly through the exhibits. So anyway, we were there at 9 o'clock in the morning. We were hoping to get into the aquarium right away, but obviously we couldn't get in until noon. So it's like, well, Grant Park is right there. Why don't we just go walk through there for a couple hours? And I mean, we wanted to go to the Buckingham Fountain and I don't remember what its proper name is, where kids wanted to see the bean. And we want to walk around through some of the shops and stuff in the city proper. So we went ahead on the lake walk, heading towards the Buckingham Fountain. And well, I don't know if you follow NASCAR, but they're having a race in Chicago this coming weekend, and basically a big part of the Grant Park was fenced off. But somehow or another, there was a fence opening by the crosswalk, and other people were walking in, so we walked into right by where the Buckingham Fountain is. And there was a bunch of NASCAR merch tents and stuff that were getting set up, and we walked up to the Buckingham Fountain, started taking a few pictures, and all of a sudden this police or security lady says, "Fountain's closed. Finish your pictures and move along." And then it kind of dawned on us that we probably weren't supposed to be in that fenced area at all. And we got up to another area trying to get out of there. There's another, and we're walking on the sidewalk, and there was a policeman across the street yelled at us, "Sidewalk's closed." I said, "Well, how do we get out of here?" So he pointed us the direction, which was kind of the direction that we were trying to go to anyway. And we went up and saw the bean. Got a few pictures of the bean. And by this time it was 10 or 10:30 in the morning. We figured it was about a half-hour walk back to the aquarium, and then we brought with like picnic lunch, so we were gonna go back to the car there and have our lunch before noon when we got in there. So we figured, well, as long as we're heading back by 11 o'clock, half hour to walk back there, half hour to eat, we'll get back there in time for our 12 o'clock entry. So by this time, like I say, we're at the bean. It's about 10:30. There's one place that I wanted to go while we were in Chicago. I guess in addition to the aquarium and the field museum. That was the Iwan Ries tobacco shop. Which was only about a block away from the bean. So we all went walking over there, and nobody wanted to go there inside there with me, obviously. So they said, well, we'll just walk around in this block or two, check out some of the shops and stores and stuff. And I said, okay, I'll be 20 minutes, half hour. I should be done. So I won't tell you about what was in the shop because I've got some footage. I'm going to make a separate video about inside the Iwan Ries tobacco shop. But I was in there for a lot longer than 20 minutes, and my family was not happy with me for that. Long story short, it was about 11:30 by the time I got out of there. And I could have easily spent another half hour to an hour in there, easily. So anyway, I'll share more about that in another video. Probably make it sometime in the next few days. So we walked back, and we ended up, we were late for our 12 o'clock admittance, but we got there about 20 after 12, 25 after 12, and the 12:30 line was already quite long. So fortunately, we were able to show them that we had the 12 o'clock admittance tickets, and they let us right in. It was also kind of disappointing, which is why we're disappointed that we feel we didn't get our value for the money, because there was a few sections that were closed at the time. Which was, apparently they were open when the kids were there a couple months ago, and they all really enjoyed the part that was closed. So I was a little bummed about that, but it's the way it is, I guess. Yeah, we're getting way long here, but one more little thing from the trip that was, there's a whole bunch that I'm not going to share, but you'd probably find it boring. But one other thing that was kind of interesting. Of course, we were driving through Wisconsin on our way there. Wisconsin is known for its cheese. And the stop for gas is somewhere in the middle of Wisconsin. right next door they had a cheese shop. So it's like, that'd be kind of fun. Let's go check it out. Oh, and in there they had cases and cases and cases of dozens, maybe hundreds of different kinds of cheeses. Free samples. So we sampled a bunch and ended up buying a bunch. And if you'd have told me before the trip that I was going to spend that much money on I suppose you could call it artisan cheese, I just said, that's stupid. I would never do that. But I did. And we happened to stop there on the way back, and I spent that much again on the way back. So I've got all kinds of artisan cheese that is actually really, really good. They had some 19-year-old cheddar that I didn't sample it because I knew $85 a pound was more than I would ever be willing to spend for cheese. I didn't want to feel like I was going to be missing out if I didn't get it. So anyway, yeah, I hope you watch this at speed and a half at least. So by the time we got home, it was I think it was after 11. Good trip, and we got to take our puppy with. He's a mutt of some sort. We got him as a rescue dog at our local Humane Society about a year and a half ago. So he's about, what do they figure? He's about 3 years old now. That was the first long trip we took him on. He actually did really good, other than whenever we'd stop for gas and try to take him out for a potty break, and he wasn't really interested in going potty until I think towards the end of the trip he figured out that when we stopped and walked him around that was his chance. So then he was better at it. Well, I think the pipe is about done here. Yeah. Don't see too much. Too much smokable left in there. There's a little bit down there, but the cobs, it's always tough to get the last little bit out of them. So anyway, there's a little summary of our trip, and yeah, so happy Independence Day, 4th of July. Happy Thursday for our non-American friends. And hope is to head up to the woods this weekend. And if the weather is not cooperative, that maybe won't be as fun, but it's always good in the woods. So with that, Joshua Stewart, pipe up north. Catch you later.